Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's SCOM-a-thon coffee break from us here at Squared Up. And it's with great pleasure that we bring you today's very exciting topic, which is all about what is new with SCOM MI. So this is part of our coffee break series, which is semi-regular. So do subscribe to the series if you're interested in future coffee break events. We're going to I think we can start. It's 1 minute past the hour. I've just seen the time, so let's dig in. And let's start by introducing who am I for those of you who are new to coffee breaks. So I am Bruce Cullen. I am the Director of Engineering here at Squared Up, one of them. And I have a very special guest with me who I'm going to bring to the stage now. Today with me, I have Ankur Gupta. You are at SCOM with the SCOM product group with Microsoft. Hello.
Hi Bruce. Hi everyone.
Good to have you here. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm good, Bruce. I'm good. Glad. I'm really excited to be talking about SCOM MI to an excited audience.
As am I. It's a good topic to talk about, and there's lots of cool stuff I'd like to understand, as I'm sure the audience will. So just to say, before we dig into today's session, if you have any questions at any point, please do put them in the LinkedIn live event comments section. I can bring them up on screen and we can put them all to Ankur as the time is right. So without further ado then, let's understand a bit more about what we're going to be addressing and discussing today. So for those of you who've been living under a rock for the last few years, we're going to give a quick high-level overview of what SCOM MI is, look at the value proposition of SCOM MI, what problems does it solve and for who, and then look at essentially what is new, Azure Observability and SCOM MI, and finish off with who is SCOM MI for. There'll be time for questions as we go into the session, but let's start with topic 1 on the agenda, which is what is SCOM MI. And for that, I'm going to hand over to you, Ankur. So I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Bruce. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be talking about SCOM MI today. Right, we are at that stage where I think a lot of you would have attended sessions in the past and have been following us very thoroughly, very closely, right, for the last 3.5 years almost, how we developed the product from an idea all the way to private preview to public preview to GA, right? So I'm glad to announce that we have progressed a lot in our journey. And SCOM MI today is at that stage where we are about to go GA in a few weeks, right? We are planning to announce it around Ignite. And of course, this presentation today, it's going to be about what our vision is for GA and beyond. Some of the basic features that are offered or going to be offered in GA, right, including the pricing model that we are going to be publishing very soon. And some use cases, some value props, and who SCOM MI is for, what the roadmap is going to be like, right? So with that, I'd like to continue the presentation, right? Bruce, so if we can continue the deck. Great. So with this, I want to start off this presentation with a demo video that we have. Now, this video, before I show it to you, I just want to add a disclaimer that this is our vision of the product in the very near future, right? Not everything shown here in the video is there for GA. I would say about 70% is there for GA, with the rest 30% scheduled to come in maybe about in a month, by the end of this year, right? So with that, let's play the video, Bruce.
Welcome to Pineapple Corp, one of the S500 customers in the retail space. Pineapple has 5,000 Windows machines and 100 Linux machines in their store and use Azure services to power their corporate functions. They currently use SCOM to monitor these services in the store with 10 management servers and 10 gateways, and capabilities of Azure Monitor for the applications on Azure. Most of the store operations are using two-tier applications consisting of Oracle databases and web tiers on IaaS or Apache. For cost and operational benefits, Pineapple Corp has decided to move the majority of its workloads to the cloud. And they recently initiated an assessment of their environment for Azure migrations from the SCOM console. They found that it would be 34% cheaper if they move all their applications to Azure. They triage the applications and decide to move 80% of the applications to Azure and close their contract with Rackspace by the end of the year. They chose to adopt lift and shift approach for moving the applications to Azure and inquire about setting up observability on the migrated workloads. The remaining 20% of applications are deployed on standalone workstations and servers that are not a part of the engagement with Rackspace and are going to stay on premises. James, the IT admin for Pineapple Corp, is concerned that with the migration to Azure, they would need to redo the monitoring rules in place with SCOM and looks for recommendations. The Azure Migrate assessments recommend James to move to Azure Monitor SCOM managed instance. James finds the service on the Azure portal and starts to create a new instance. The experience guides James with the prerequisites that help him prepare the environment and presents the standard Azure experience to take the different inputs. Once all the inputs are given, the instance takes 45 minutes to deploy a SCOM instance in James's subscription. James follows the migration guidance to start monitoring applications migrated to Azure. He is able to discover and monitor migrated applications in SCOM MI with a few clicks. After achieving continuity of monitoring for migrating applications, James now looks to address the needs for the applications that are staying on premises. He finds Arc viable. James is able to discover unmonitored Arc-enabled machines and configure them with SCOM managed instance. Once configured, there is no difference in monitoring experience for Azure VMs and Arc-enabled machines. Lastly, James wants to consolidate monitoring and operations for the small set of applications that are firewall restricted and domainless. James sets up managed gateways on an existing Arc-enabled server, discovers and starts monitoring workloads which have line of sight to this gateway. James reuses the management pack configurations in place on-prem and redeploys them on Azure without any changes from the Monitored Resources section on the SCOM MI homepage. He starts seeing the alerts that used to be on SCOM in Azure Monitor. He can see the alert details, the context, the state, the owner, and other things which helps him to act on them. As more workloads get migrated, James adds them to SCOM managed instance. After a limit, he notices a warning suggesting the SCOM MI instance needs to scale out. In the on-premises deployment of SCOM, this was a major step for James that included provisioning new management servers and configuring the agents to use it. With SCOM managed instance, this is made a one-click experience. The affinity of agents to management servers is automatically handled by the service. James does not need to update any of the agent configurations. Now that James has discovered and is monitoring applications, he needs to see the live performance and metric dashboards to know the health and availability of the applications in real time. With a few clicks, James is able to view and analyze operational dashboards and metric reports on an existing Azure managed Grafana instance. Pineapple Corp is also using advanced analytics to identify opportunities for further fine-tuning the application architectures and monitoring rules. James wants to extend this to include the migrated applications. He needs the monitored metrics, events, and alerts information for these applications to be available in a log analytics workspace. James connects the MI instance with an LA workspace to achieve data periodically and hence make it accessible to further analytics. By doing so, James's team is able to configure reporting dashboards on Azure workbooks that can give a glimpse of the long-term state of the environment. While Pineapple Corp is executing the migration plan by gradually increasing the applications on Azure and monitored with SCOM MI, Microsoft releases updates to SCOM. Typically, this is a major event for James, and he previously used to meticulously plan the upgrade for the SCOM deployment and the agents. With SCOM MI, he is happy to learn that this is a non-event. Microsoft ensures that all the agents are always kept up to date and automatically updates the MI instance in the time window provided by James. This means James does not have to have an administrator who knows about SCOM and its upkeep. The Azure administrator who manages the rest of Azure Monitor capabilities can extend to maintaining the MI instance as well. Overall, with the capabilities of workload health monitoring using the management packs, with minimal need for operational upkeep of the infrastructure, and reduced training costs courtesy a single pane of the glass experience with Azure Monitor, Pineapple Corp is able to execute the migrations better and maximize the benefits to the cloud.
Great. Thanks a lot for the video, Bruce. Right? Thanks for showing it. So yeah, as everyone saw in the video, right? That was a vision. That is a vision for SCOM MI for GA and beyond. Right. As we walk through the presentation, I'll be talking about what is there in GA and what will come after that. So when we talk about the value propositions of SCOM MI, we basically highlight three things, right? And the story behind this, next slide, Bruce. Yeah, the story behind these three value props is that 3 years ago, when we started doing research about the product, right, 3.5 years ago, uh, we talked to a lot of existing SCOM customers, and almost everyone had the same pain point that okay, SCOM is great, it's a great on-prem product, but our organizations are mandating that we move to the cloud over the next few years, right? So we can continue using SCOM, but we would like to have a product which is more cloud native, and at the same time we want to be focusing on simplified management of SCOM infrastructure, right? We don't want to be spending half our time on managing the SCOM infrastructure itself and only the other half managing the workloads, right? It seemed like a waste of time. And so we came up with this idea of having a PaaS like service for SCOM, which runs in Azure. It's a cloud native service, and it solves for a lot of the headache of SCOM infrastructure management. So if you're talking about hardware updates, if you're talking about scaling out, scaling in, if you're talking about patching, OS patching, SCOM patching, and just maintaining a healthy management group, right? So all that headache would be taken away from the SCOM admins, and the SCOM admins can do truly what they signed up for, which is monitoring workloads, right? So that was one of the very key requirements that was highlighted to us, and that is what we're bringing with SCOM MI, right? A PaaS service hosted in Azure, which takes away this headache of infrastructure management. Now, the second value prop that we heard very commonly across customers was that, okay, great, you have a cloud service, it's a great PaaS service that you are developing. At the same time, we have spent about 10 years, 10 to 15 years, on average, investing time and money to make SCOM what it is today, right? We have spent a lot of time writing, developing management packs, writing custom configs, right? You know, we have made a lot of IP over the last few years. So we want a solution which can reuse these investments we have made, because obviously we don't want to start all the way from zero, right? And so that our investments over the last 10 to 15 years go to waste. And so give us a solution that allows us to preserve in SCOM investments in monitoring rules and other configurations. And so that was another key value proposition with SCOM MI, that whatever SCOM management packs that you're using today, whatever investments you have made in SCOM can be reused in SCOM MI, right? So that provides a sort of monitoring continuity with what you have today in SCOM when you migrate to SCOM MI. And the third pain point that we heard pretty often is the fact that, I'm moving half my workloads to the cloud, and I might be using a different monitoring solution such as Azure Monitor to monitor those workloads. So I don't want to be using a solution which for a different solution for monitoring Azure based workloads and a different solution for monitoring on-prem workloads, right? Because that just leads to a lot of headache. I mean, imagine two monitoring solutions you have, and that is being managed by a team of like two or three, right? uh, it's just extremely difficult to manage. And so the key ask that we heard here from customers is that give us one consolidated product which allows us to monitor our workloads wherever they're located, whether they're located on prem, whether they're located in the cloud, whether they're located on the edge, right? We want one solution with centered around Azure Monitor, obviously, right? Because Azure has a so much better UI than SCOM does today, right? So basically, give us one monitoring solution centered around Azure, and that allows us to monitor all our workloads wherever they're hosted and located, right? And that is the third key point and the value proposition that we highlight with SCOM MI, that SCOM MI gives you a consolidated operational experience centered around Azure to monitor all your workloads, right? So these highlights, I mean, these are the key value props of using SCOM MI, right? Next slide, please. Yep. If I talk about Azure observability and SCOM MI, right? So a lot of uh, customers today get confused in terms of uh, what SCOM MI is, right? Is it a replacement of Azure Monitor, or is it something that is in the scheme of things of Azure Monitor? Right. So further on in the in the slide deck, there will be a diagram which shows where SCOM MI fits into the entire scheme of things. Right. And to start off that part of the presentation, right? Next slide, please. We'll be talking about the pricing model of SCOM MI, right? So this, I know it's a key interest point for a lot of you. This is the feedback that I've been hearing, right? And based on internal mandates in Microsoft also, right? uh, I don't think revealing the pricing before a few weeks before GA is a norm, and thus we held out so far, right? Thanks for bearing with us for that, right? So this is the pricing model that we're thinking for SCOM MI, right? Today, SCOM, the typical pricing model is that you have to buy a System Center license, System Center Software Assurance license, along with the different licenses, either for SQL or for the Windows Server license, and of course there is the hardware part of it. So if you're running SCOM on-prem, then you have to get all those hardware licenses and other things that you need to run your SCOM, right? And you need to, typically what we have seen is that there's maybe a team size of like 3 or 4 SCOM admins who monitor the entire SCOM infrastructure and workloads. Now with SCOM MI, we are removing the licensing model, right? And just like any other Azure service that is out there, right, it's going to be priced on a pay as you go pricing. So there are two components of the pricing, right? One is there is going to be a charge of a per endpoint monitoring per month. So if you decide to monitor 1000 endpoints with SCOM MI for 1 month, right, so then that will be $6 per endpoint per month, or about $6,000 a month, right? And then the secondary charges that are going to be there is those charges revolve around the consumption of Azure resources, and this is a standard Azure pricing formula. In fact, any cloud based product, it's a similar pricing formula, right? that the resources that you're using while consuming the product, you will be charged for that. So let's say you are using a VM, so you're using a VMSS cluster or an SQL MI database, or manage identities or resource groups, whatever you're using as part of the SCOM MI service, right? You'll be charged for that. Now, a key aspect we like to highlight here is that you will be saving up on your team costs, because instead of having 3 to 4 people who need to manage your SCOM infrastructure, because this is a PaaS product which eases a lot of the management burdens of SCOM on-prem, right? You can reduce your team size. So instead of 3 or 4, maybe you only need one admin or like 2 admins, right, at max, to monitor your SCOM MI workloads, right? Of course, the 30% of SCOM costs is it's a rough figure based on our assumptions. It might or might not apply to you depending on your environment, because the key one of the most prominent features of SCOM is that almost every customer has a different environment, and some have disaster recovery in place, some don't, right? Some have high availability, some don't, right? So depending on what your environment is, you might be saving up less or more than this, right? So next slide. Yep. And and so this the second part I want to again emphasize is that Azure Monitor and SCOM MI are not competing products. This is probably one of the most asked questions I get across presentations that I do in different sessions, right? That should I, so customers approach people, and then they say, oh, should I use Azure Monitor, should I use SCOM MI to monitor my workloads? I tell them that Azure Monitor and SCOM MI are complementary products, right? The name of SCOM Managed Instance is Azure Monitor SCOM Managed Instance. They are not competing products, so it's not a matter of uh, what should I use when, right? It's just a matter of uh, whether you fit into that criteria of using SCOM MI or not. So let me walk you through a bit of this roadmap, right? What we are thinking with Azure Monitor. So today, for those of you who are familiar with Azure Monitor, you can carry out a lot of it has a lot of capabilities already, right? Such as you have application insights for monitoring your applications, you have VM insights for monitoring your VM, you have network insights, right? Container monitoring is there. uh, if you want to visualize things, you have workbooks, dashboards, Power BI, Grafana. So Azure Monitor by default has a lot of inbuilt capabilities that allow you to monitor your workloads. Now with SCOM MI coming into the play, right? It Azure Monitor can now also monitor on-prem guest workloads that are running SCOM today, that utilize SCOM management packs. In fact, one of the key things that we have heard in the past is that customers come and tell us, we didn't like, we were using SCOM, but then because we had to move to the cloud, we dropped using SCOM. We tried to move to Azure Monitor. We set up some of the alerting tools and everything, but then things didn't work out because the latency is not as good, or the rules are too different, or we can't get the granularity that SCOM management packs give us. And so we tell them that, okay, you know what, maybe Azure Monitor was not the right solution for you. You need a solution which is like SCOM but hosted in Azure Monitor. And so that is the key benefit that SCOM MI brings, right? It targets those subset, those customers who today are already using SCOM and are keen to move to the cloud, right? Next slide, please. Yep. Yep. This is basically what I am talking about, right? If you go to the next slide. Yeah. So who is SCOM MI for, right? We can target a bunch of customers when we're talking about SCOM MI, right? We can target greenfield customers, we can target brownfield customers, but that is not our goal at this stage, right? At this stage, our goal is that SCOM MI is highly suitable for those brownfield customers who are already using SCOM and SCOM MPs to monitor workloads, right? Because when a greenfield customer approaches us, we'd love to have them on board with us. But we say that, see, based on your requirements, maybe Azure Monitor or something else in the Azure Monitor family of products might suit your needs better, right? So SCOM MI ideally is for those who are already using SCOM and SCOM MPs to monitor workloads, and they're looking to modernize their management and reduce admin costs, or migrate on-prem workloads to Azure to have a hybrid environment. Now, what do I mean by this is that if, let's say, you have 1,000 servers that are on-prem, right, you get a mandate that you have to move to the cloud. So maybe over the next 3 or 4 years, you might move maybe 500 servers that are on-prem to the cloud, while you keep 500 servers on-prem. So you have this environment set up where half your workloads are on-prem and half are in Azure. And of course, you might move those half which are on-prem to Azure eventually, right? But that's maybe a target over the next 4 or 5 years. So SCOM MI would be a good fit in that scenario, right? Because, again, as I mentioned before, right, one product to monitor all your workloads wherever they are, whether they're on-prem or in cloud, right? It's a hybrid monitoring solution, and it helps modernize your management and reduce admin costs, right? So in that way, it has a lot of benefits and advantages, right? Next slide, please. Yep. So let's talk about the future and the current state of things, right? Where we are in GA, where we will be in the next few years, right? So if you go to the next slide, right, so this is what the roadmap looks like of comparing SCOM on-prem and GA, which is ideally in the next 2 weeks, right? And of course, I will be talking a bit about what comes next post GA, right? What's in our mind? Of course, these are again initial days, right? So we are still in that planning stage where we are thinking what best to complete after GA, right? So basically, SCOM MI GA, right, versus SCOM on-prem, there are going to be a lot of changes. And as we saw in the video, right, things like OS patching, right? It will be done by the service, so users don't have to get involved in that. SCOM patches, again, it's going to be made very simple. So here I want to highlight the fact that this whole concept of update rollups, which is so popular in SCOM, right? Every 6 to 7 months, you're waiting for an update rollup. It includes bug fixes, it includes new features. You're just hoping that the bug that you reported is there in the fix, and if it's not, you have to wait for another 6 months to get a new update rollup. So with SCOM MI, that concept is gone, right? You don't need to wait every 6 or 7 months for a new update. We plan to release updates every 15 or 20 days, right? Maximum 1 month. Every 1 month, we plan to release updates. And what that means is, let's say you find a bug, right? You report it as part of using SCOM MI. You report it to the customer engineers or the product group, and in this month cycle we will fix it, and we will release an update very soon, right? Either 15 days, 20 days, or 30 days. And once that update comes, you will get a banner in your SCOM MI instance on the Azure portal saying that your instance is not the latest version, so please go to the patching tab and update your instance to the latest version. And so, when you go to the patching tab, at a click of a button, right, all you have to do is click that button and your instance will be updated to the latest instance. There is no other involvement from your side. What you need to do, you don't need to deploy new machines hardware, you don't need to remove old hardware, right? You in fact can continue monitoring your system. It takes about depending on the size of the update, it can take about 30-35 minutes, and in that time you will have a brand new instance up and running, right, with your bug fixes. So that's a big improvement over what we had in SCOM on-prem, right? This whole waiting 6 to 7 months is a very difficult ice. It's difficult to justify in the cloud world. Now, when we're talking about agent management, right? So of course, on-prem agents are it's something we can't control, given that they're controlled by the customers. But if someone wants to deploy agents in Azure or in Arc, right, we will be having that deployment via VM extensions. and we are targeting auto updates for those Azure and Arc based agents. So via VM extensions only, this capability will be there. Right? When we're talking about availability, reliability, fault tolerance, right? Because it's an Azure service, it's a cloud service. Naturally, there are some Azure-based SLAs that come into play, right? So 99.95 is the percent um, uptime that Azure promises its services. Note, I'm not talking about the SCOM MI instance. I'm talking about the SCOM MI service, right? They're two different things, because given that it's a hybrid product, the SCOM MI instance has an on-prem component, which obviously we can't guarantee an SLA for an on-prem part of the service, right? So what we can guarantee an SLA for is the Azure hosted resources, which are in the Microsoft tenants, such as your VMSS clusters and your management servers, right? So that is by default, there is a 99.95% availability that is there, and we have fault tolerance built in the case of region. If a region goes down, or if a zone goes down, right, we have some inbuilt capabilities that are already there, that this is common across all Azure services, right? um, so that's a key advantage that we have. When we're talking about scaling, right, optimization and scaling, so as we saw in the video again, uh, scaling is becoming very easy now, scaling up and scaling down both, right? Previously, if you wanted to scale, you might have had to add a new hardware, remove an old hardware, right? Now with SCOM MI, all you have to do is click a button, and you've scaled up, you've scaled down very easily, right? New servers are added, new servers are removed at the click of a button. So it saves a lot of time, saves a lot of money, uh, makes it just easy not to have to deal with hardware, right? When we're talking about monitoring, so we are targeting supporting all agent-based management packs that are today compatible with SCOM will be supported with SCOM MI, right? That's one of our key metrics we are working on, right? When we're talking about gateway servers, so similar to agents, we will be deploying gateways via VM extensions, and this will be on Arc enabled machines, right? So you have your gateway servers that again, it will be managed by the VM extension. So anytime the gateway needs updating, uh, so that can be done by the VM extensions itself. Right. Arc monitoring is going to be supported in SCOM MI, right? It might not be available for GA immediately, but within very soon, post GA, maybe in a week or so, it will become available. We are also planning to integrate the SCOM MI instance with your log analytics workspace. So any data that you have today in SCOM, you can forward it to your log analytics workspace. You can connect the instance to that, right? You can collect all your logs, you can run your queries on that, and your advanced KQL queries, and you can see the results that you want, right? In fact, we are actually planning to integrate log analytics with Azure workbooks. And so whenever someone runs queries on log analytics, right, they can visualize the results in a workbook. Now, as part of that, we will give example workbooks also to help customers uh, save time in case they don't know how to develop a dashboard or a workbook, right? So those example workbooks should help. Right, workbooks is scheduled to come again post GA. It won't be there in GA. Log analytics integration is already part of the product. Right, so if you try SCOM MI today, you will be able to send logs and write queries. Right. Alerting is going to be integrated with Azure Monitor, right? So any alerts that are generated in the SCOM on-prem SCOM Ops console will be sent to Azure Monitor, and you can see and you can manage your alerts in the portal itself. Right, so all the properties will be sent to Azure Monitor. So if you want to write some alert processing rule, or run some run book, or write any notifications, or in fact even integration to ITSM tools such as ServiceNow, right? You can do that via the Azure Monitor portal. There are inbuilt connectors, default connectors, ITSM connectors that are there, and you can use that. So Azure Monitor as a product offers a lot of alert monitoring, alert management capabilities, right? So all those will now also apply to SCOM MI alerts that show up there. Uh, and finally, the dashboarding and visualization capabilities, right? So this was one of the key uh, feature pain points that we heard, that SCOM looks old, the console looks bad, and of course squared up as is probably one of the best dashboarding and visualization companies out there offering capabilities for SCOM, right? So I think it's a universally accepted fact that SCOM UI is not that good, right? And so we worked hard on improving that. One is, of course, the integration with the Azure Monitor key functionalities, right? So there's lesser reliance on this SCOM Ops console and SCOM Web console. The second is integrating reporting and dashboarding with, of course, Power BI, which is already there as part of the product, and also with workbooks, which I mentioned before, and Azure Managed Grafana, which you might have seen a glimpse in the video, when I showed some Grafana dashboards that were there. Um in the this thing, right? uh, the flow of events. And so our goal here is that as soon as data comes in, you send it to the SCOM, the Azure Monitor portal, write it in the different Custo databases, right? And you can visualize using workbooks. uh, Power BI already has default dashboard. So in case someone out there who's using SCOM MI for the first time, who's using Power BI for the first time, they don't know how to write dashboards or queries, or develop visualization for Power BI. We are providing, by default, we are providing 4 or 5 dashboards with Power BI, right? So they're out of the box. And we are targeting the same with workbooks, as I mentioned, and we are targeting the same with Azure Managed Grafana as well. So in case you don't know Grafana, in case you don't have the time to write your own dashboards, right, we will be providing some out of the box dashboards for you to play around with. Similar to workbooks, Grafana is a capability that is scheduled to go live immediately post GA. Right, we are working hard to bring it live in GA also, but in case that doesn't happen, right, over the next 1 month or so, it should be available. The dashboarding via Grafana, right? And and so yeah, that's, I think, if you go to the next slide, we'll it's
So that
mostly
was
going
the
to.
last slide. So now,
Yep.
unless there's anything else you wanted to add, it's time to start with the Q&A. So is there anything final you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think just the final thing that I want to say is that, again, lots of capabilities that are coming up. I just walked you through some of them, right? In fact, based on the feedback that we get from GA, which is going to be launching, we are working on a lot of new things from an architecture angle as well as a capabilities angle. So things like moving from AD to Azure AD, moving from SQL MI to Azure SQL, right? And given that, we would like to think that it is still early days in the product, right? Because we were in private preview until last year, we are in public preview this year, right? And we are going to go GA soon. So we are building that capability set one by one, right? And we're going to be getting a lot of feedback in GA, and post that we're going to be prioritizing certain features now versus certain features later, right? So stay tuned for that, right? Give us as much feedback, use the product, give us as much feedback as you can. I know some of you already are very actively involved, and send regular emails to us, and we try to prioritize it as much as we can. And based on that, we'll build a future roadmap, but we have a lot of exciting things planned for the next year.
I agree. Very exciting stuff. Thank you very much for showing us all. And just to highlight one of my favorite things about SCOM MI, it's SaaS, right? So ultimately, we haven't got to wait, as you said earlier, 6 months for an update essentially for a bug fix or whatever. It's SaaS, which is amazing. So with that said, I'm going to turn the floor over to Q&A. So if you have a question, please put it in the LinkedIn comments, and I will slowly bring them up on stage. There are loads of them already in my queue. So I'm going to just quickly start bringing them up on screen. Firstly, not so much a question, but a nice piece of affirmation for you here, Ankur. But somebody, StreamYard doesn't know who, thinks that more people are going to be using SCOM on the back of this update, which is great to hear. I agree. Also, a reminder from somebody out there, Vikram, who says SCOM MI could monitor workloads running in Azure, which is absolutely true. That's also true of SCOM on-prem. So just to highlight a few obvious bits and pieces before we go into the actual questions. So real questions start now then. What is the plan for MPs for Azure resources is the first question.
Yeah, see, right now our goal is to have feature parity, right, with SCOM on-prem. So today there is an MP, there is an Azure MP in SCOM today, which of course we are going to be making it compatible with SCOM MI, right? So that is, again, if you want to monitor Azure resources using SCOM, you can do that. Now, when you're talking about modernized resources that are based, created, and hosted in Azure, right? So I would say that, of course, you can try using SCOM MI for that, but at the same time, Azure Monitor itself has so many capabilities that are, probably as good as SCOM MI, if not better, right? You're talking about VMs, you can use VM insights, applications, you can use application insights, right? So given that we are one family of products, right, we don't want to be stepping on other people's toes and, build the wheel while it's already there, right? So we'll see if there is a requirement for MPs for Azure resources. We'll work on it. Otherwise, we'll rely on our partner teams in Azure Monitor to handle those use cases.
Sounds good to me. From my perspective, this question makes the most sense when taken in the context of on-prem SCOM, because like you say, one of the big things for me personally is that SCOM MI being part of Azure Monitor means you're starting to bring these two worlds together, and no longer do we have these two separate undivided worlds. So that's really cool. Next question. Thank you, Yoel, for that question, by the way. Next question is from Anthony. Do you have to reinstall, configure all of your current MPs in SCOM MI? Good question, Anthony.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Now we know that migration is a very key aspect, right? Having a smooth transition path is very important. So we're working on a tool, right? Again, that might be out in another month and a half or so, right? Where we are in fact migrating MPs and all your configurations from SCOM on-prem to SCOM MI very, very easy, right? Via the click of a few buttons, right? A click, go type of procedure, right? So just look out for that, right? So in that case, you won't have to reinstall all your MPs in SCOM MI.
That's great news. I mean, ultimately, the configuration is typically stored in MPs themselves. So if you're migrating MPs, amazing. So that answers that one, hopefully. Let's see next. Next, we have a question from a LinkedIn user saying, how does Azure Arc play a role in SCOM MI, if any?
Yeah, Azure Arc does play a role in SCOM MI. So there are probably, maybe you can categorize resources into three types, right? You have on-prem resources, on-prem workloads, you have Arc-based workloads, and then you have Azure workloads. So SCOM MI, today's SCOM on-prem, monitors on-prem workloads and maybe, some Azure-based workloads, right? With SCOM MI, we will be enabling Arc monitoring as well, right? So if you have any resource that is Arc enabled, you can monitor it via SCOM MI.
Makes sense. So ultimately, if you are a customer who uses Azure Arc, you'll be better served by SCOM. And it makes sense to use SCOM if you're using Arc, because ultimately the types of workloads you'll be looking to run are the same types of workloads. The SCOM is great for monitoring. Makes sense to me. Moving on to the next question, which is from Anthony again, which I may need some additional clarification on, which is how does the observability work? Who can observe /view and how? So my to paraphrase this question, I think it's basically a question on the permissions model for SCOM MI. What is it? What capabilities are available? Is it different from current on-prem SCOM? But Anthony, if you'd like to submit additional clarification, I'll bring it up.
Yeah. I mean, the way I understand this question, it's, as you said, right, it might be about the RBAC model or how, in terms of access permissions. So it's very similar to SCOM on-prem today, right? You have your admin role, you have your, contributor role in Azure. It's called a contributor role and a reader role, right? So, and then in on-prem, it's called admin and operator role. So you have those same roles, right? And the permission set is also the same, right? Of course, one of the key items for us in the future is to have an Azure based RBAC model, because if we move completely to Azure, right, we'll need to follow the rules of the game in Azure. So that is something, again, it's in our roadmap, and for now it's a very similar model to on-prem.
Yeah, sounds good. Anthony's replied with an additional piece of clarification: observability by our monitoring team. So essentially, I think we've addressed this, which is great. It's a very similar permissions model. Where to go next? Let's have this one again from Anthony. Can I use SCOM MI to manage my on-prem resources as well? A nice, easy one for you, Ankur.
Yeah. Yes.
So yes is the answer. Very simple answer. Nothing more to add.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question then is from Jean Lebron. All agent-based management packs, does that mean it does not include monitoring targeted to management server resource pools? That's a good question.
No. See, okay. When I said that, what I meant is we are targeting all management packs, right? Of course, agent-based management packs too, and resource pools as well.
Right. Okay, makes sense. So in other words, all management packs are nice and simple.
Yeah, because again,
Amazing.
one of our key goals right now is to achieve feature parity, right? So our target will always be 100% compatibility. Of course, there might be one or two which we might not be able to for whatever reason, but our goal is 100% feature parity.
Makes sense. Perfect. Nice and clear. Next up, let's go to a question from Thomas here. How are the certificates for the management server managed when the automated update is happening? How are they deployed and bound? Good question.
So the certificates are going to be managed through the VM extension, and we have built the capabilities around that. The VM extension itself will look at auto updating. It will look at deploying through VM extensions, updating through VM extensions, right? And I think that should answer it.
Sounds good. Makes sense to me. Where to go next? Let's see about this one. Question here from Ludo. What about SCOM's auditing collection services, ACS feature? Does SCOM MI also support this? Is there still an ACS collector in SCOM MI that the ACS forwarders can point to? Good question.
Yeah, this is so audit collection services are something, again, as of today, they are not supported in SCOM MI. Right, it's in our roadmap, but based on our experience, right? Again, we might not have enough. Maybe we are missing out on some data points, but based on our experience, it's not a very widely used service that we have observed, right? So we have put it off for a later point of time, right? It's in our roadmap, but it's not available right now.
Makes sense. One for the future. And that's where your feedback comes in. That's a form of feedback. So please keep your questions and comments coming in. Next up, let's go to another question from Anthony. From what I've seen so far, alerts and notifications are very basic. Is this going to change?
I'm not sure if you're talking about SCOM MI alerts or SCOM alerts, because SCOM MI alerts are now going to be linked to Azure Monitor alerts, right? So are the notifications. So Azure Monitor, if you have seen the notifications, there are at least 7-8 different types of things you can do when you generate an alert, right? You can run a runbook, you can run an automation job, you can get ITSM connectors, right? You can send emails, you can, send SMSs. So lots of capabilities. I'm not sure if this question is meant for that. But yeah, we are going to be following the Azure Monitor way of doing things from the future.
Which essentially means if Azure Monitor themselves add a new way of connecting their alerts somewhere, then SCOM MI gets it for free. So, for example,
Yeah.
ServiceNow would be a possibility. So the short answer to this question is yes, and it's improving, which is great news.
Yeah.
Let's see where now. Another one from Yoel here, which I'll bring up. The connection on port 5724 will be to VMSS. Is it possible to connect to AMPLS?
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that. Yeah,
It's okay.
I can ask my team and get back to you on that.
No worries. Answers in the post then.
Yeah.
Let's see. What have we got next? So next up I have, is there an API available for SCOM MI? Makes sense.
Yeah, the RP resource provider does have a REST API.
Nice simple question. Nice simple answer. Cool. Let's see. What have we got next? Here we go. Next one's from Yasahud. So no authoring stuff in SCOM MI. So good question. Are there any changes to the way that people author MPs?
Not right now. So MP management is still going to be done via the Ops console. So I might have missed that point in the presentation, right? But we are still going to be having a SCOM Ops console that is going to be deployed. So whatever you could do in SCOM today on your Ops console, you can still do in SCOM MI. So the MP management is something, again, it's in our roadmap, right? And we know it's a very important feature, right? Right now for GA, it's going to be done via the Ops console. Very soon, we'll move the entire management to Azure.
Makes sense. So short answer is no change in the short term. So as you were, all good. Next question then, which is, did I understand correctly that for instance, a Windows server in the pay-as-you-go pricing costs $8 per month? Is that correct?
Yeah. So we are defining $6 as an endpoint-based pricing, right? So where you have a workload that you're monitoring or an MP installed, yes, that's $6 a month.
Sounds good. Nice, straightforward point there. Next question is from Thomas. Azure Monitor scales very easily with the demands for our customers from small to large. One issue with SCOM MI are the relatively large costs for SQL MI. Can you tell us how the costs for SQL MI can be reduced? Good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? So we ourselves, right, are exploring running SQL MI in using less cores, right? So if we recommend 8 cores, we are trying with 4 cores and 2 cores, right? So that's probably one of the best methods to reduce SQL MI cost. The second is we are pushing the SQL MI team to add capability of pausing the instance when not in use, right? So in case you are not using SCOM for monitoring for a certain period of time, you can pause the SQL MI instance. That's another one. And third, we will be exploring again, one of the items in our roadmap. We will be exploring maybe using Azure SQL instead of SQL MI to save up on costs, right? That is something we have in the agenda for the next year.
I can see that being popular. This isn't the first time I've had this question put to me, so very interested to hear how things develop there. Cool. Next up, another question from Anthony. We have a monitoring team that responds to customers to assist with alerts and notifications, questions, and resolutions. How will they get accessed?
Yeah, so see, in Azure Monitor, right now, the monitoring teams that we have talked to, right, for different, for different customers, it's probably handled by a different team, right? You have a monitoring admin. That's one person, and then you might have another person who's looking at alerts, notifications, or it might be the same people in some organization, right? Same person. So if they get access to the Azure Monitor alerts, then they would be able to send alerts, assist with alerts, notifications, resolutions.
Yeah. So essentially get access to the SCOM alerts, whether that's via Azure Monitor or
Yeah.
not. And
Yeah.
you're consuming them in the same way you're consuming them today, and
Yes.
potentially with all of the benefits that Azure Monitor natively brings. Another answer is obviously squared up dashboards, but I would say that. So the next question then is from Dave, who says, per the gateway slide you presented, will we still need gateways in SCOM MI to monitor cross-domain/work groups?
Yes, for now, yes, you would need gateways to monitor cross-domain workloads.
Okay, simple answer. Next question then. Can I run a custom PowerShell script when an alert occurs, maybe from inside a workbook? This currently adds customization to the alert notifications for our customers.
Yes, again, if Anthony, if you explore Azure Monitor, it does allow runbooks. It allows, a lot of capabilities, automations, runbooks. So I'm pretty sure you can do that very easily in Azure Monitor.
I think you're right. Cool. Thank you. Next question. There's still quite a few. They're still coming in. Next one is from Patrick. This is the question that I was going to ask myself. Are there any thoughts on savings for companies that already have System Center SA and enterprise agreements for Windows and SQL? Today, Azure allows you to use hybrid licensing for discounts and to use your on-prem KMS and existing agreement.
Yeah, so this is again a really good question. Now, how SCOM pricing works, Patrick and others, is that each customer typically has a customer engineer or an account manager that they're working with, right? And in a sense, what happens is there are some facets of customization that happens to the pricing. So we have a standard licensing for System Center, and then when it goes to customers, by the time it reaches the customer, there is some uh, customization based on the environment. So if you work with your existing account manager or customer engineer, right, they might help you, or they might tell you ways of saving costs or utilizing System Center SA licenses, right? Again, it's a very case by case scenario. I don't have a standard answer for this.
Okay, there you go. There's the answer. Good question. There's actually a question in here for me. Hi guys, we use squared up dashboarding as a presentation layer for our existing on-prem SCOM implementation. Can we do the same with MI? Short answer, yes. Both our dashboard server and our cloud products are compatible with SCOM MI. So yes, is the short answer. The long answer is see the documentation for how. But yes, it's all possible and it's relatively simple. Next question is again from Anthony. Can I run a custom? Hang on a second. I've already shown you this one.
Yeah.
Essentially have. So then the next question is from Jamie. Is the alerting costs for SCOM MI included in the $8 per device per month, or does that have an additional Azure Monitor charge per alert? Very good question.
Yeah, no, alerting is not going to be charged in SCOM MI.
Cool, nice and simple. Yeah. So it's just the cost per agent, endpoint, essentially.
Yeah.
Endpoint.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question then. We use a commands channel that runs a PowerShell scripts to customize certain notifications. Is it the same functionality available in SCOM MI?
Yeah, again, like I said before, right? Azure Monitor offers a lot of capabilities, probably more than SCOM today. Right, so I'm pretty sure command channel notifications, PowerShell scripts can all be done via Azure Monitor.
Makes sense. All right. Well, that's the last question I have. So that's awesome. So I'm going to give you a few more moments to try and type your questions. And while you're doing that, I'm going to just leave you with a few final thoughts. Just to say, if you've enjoyed today's SCOMathon coffee break brought to you by us here at Squared Up, we are putting on a live customer workshop on the 15th of November. This will be a virtual event where you can meet the Squared Up team, me included. I'll be there in some form, no doubt, and hear what's going on in Squared Up, covering SCOM MI and beyond. Lots of updates in both our dashboard server products and our cloud products. So do sign up at squaredup.com/virtual-workshop-2023. So all that's left to say, if there are no more questions, let's just see. I can't see any new questions. Thank you very much both to those of you attending for your time. I hope this has been useful for you. It certainly has been useful for me. And thank you, Ankur, for coming here and for showing us everything you've shown us today.
Bruce. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak, right? And looking forward to interacting more with you in the near future.
Absolutely. All that's left to say is do follow us on LinkedIn so you can be the first to hear about future events. And thank you for your time, Ankur. Until next time, Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.
All right. Goodbye.